Good evening. Tonight's meeting of the Arlington School Committee is being conducted in person and through the use of Zoom. This meeting is being simultaneously broadcast on ACMi, and the meeting is being recorded. Because, do we expect Mr. Schlickman to be remote?
No.
I have not heard.
Okay. Well, right now, all members are present, so votes will be taken by voice unless a roll call is required. Persons wishing to access the meeting using Zoom may find information on how to do so on the town's website. The posted agenda and supporting materials for this meeting are also available on the town's website. Due to open meeting law restrictions, the committee cannot participate in or access Zoom's chat function. While everyone is welcome to observe this meeting, active remote participation requires advance notice. All participants are asked to activate their camera and shall provide their full name in the interest of developing a record of the meeting. For members of the public who wish to address the committee, there will be 20 minutes of public comment. If you would like to sign up or speak, either remotely via Zoom or in person, you must email Elizabeth Diggins by 6 p.m. Thursday, the date of the meeting. Depending on how many people sign up, time allotments may be reduced but will not exceed 3 minutes each. We have tonight just two 7th graders from the Addison Middle School, Sona McCowan and Matilda McGrath. You guys can come up and sit with those microphones. Are you both speaking?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you 6 minutes total between you. Was that usually you'd get 3 minutes each, but if you're speaking together, and you need to tell us your name and address for the record. Give me 1 second to pull up my timer. Go ahead.
Matilda McGrath, 29 Addison Street.
Sona McEwen, 110 Robbins Road. We're here today because we want to do a fundraiser for the Jimmy Fund at Addison Middle School. So the Jimmy Fund raises money for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. This money is used to help fund research for a cancer cure, which impacts numerous lives. Also, the money raised will help improve patient care and will go towards a variety of support services for patients and their families. Some quick facts about the Jimmy Fund are that they run over 750 fundraisers each year. Also, they have curated almost 50% of all cancer medications used around the country today.
We're here to ask about prizes for our fundraiser. As of right now, it states that we cannot have prizes for our fundraiser. And being in middle school, we can see that middle schoolers are very motivated by prizes, unfortunately. And we want to make sure that, we get as much donations to this cause as we can, because it, again, accounts for numerous lives. It's a really important thing that I think more middle schoolers should care about. And I think prizes would be, unfortunately, the way that helps middle schoolers donate and also learn a bit more about this cause.
So we are planning an in-school fundraiser that would be done during our Aspire time and it would run for a total of 1 to 2 weeks. And it's called Change for a Cancer Cure. And it would ideally be run in late May, but probably early June. And basically each Aspire would get a jar or container, and students will put change or dollar bills in, with the goal of raising the most money. The top 3 Aspires that raise the most money will get a prize at the end of the 2 weeks. The money will be counted and collected by our fundraising group, and 100% of all the money will go to the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Every Friday for 2 weeks, there will be different challenge days that will keep the fundraiser exciting. For example, we could have days where students could sabotage another class jar by putting in silver coins, so quarters, nickels, or dimes, which would take points away from that Aspire's jar. Another challenge could be double points day, where the value of each coin or bill would be doubled when it is put in the Aspire's jars. So, for example, quarters would be worth 50 points, or like a dollar bill would be worth 200 points, and like so on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm gonna break with protocol and ask one question. What kind of prizes were you thinking about, just so we can know that?
It really like depends, but we would probably do like either like toys, games, like, or like gift cards of some sort. We're still trying to like figure that out a little bit, but probably something of that sort.
Thanks. Did you wanna?
I had explained that we typically don't interact with public comment, and we had run into a challenge because they had reached out to me about the possibility of doing this, and so I went and looked at school committee policy, and we do have a policy that says that sort of individual prizes or prizes in general, like competition base for fundraising is not allowed, and so I said that the school committee policy. So they wanted to talk to the school committee and wanted to do the fundraiser at some point in June. So I will follow up with you all once I've had a chance to discuss the policy with the school committee a bit and to figure out what we might be able to accommodate, given that the competition piece was so important to the two of you. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Next on the agenda, do we not have an AEA representative tonight? Okay. Let's go to the AHS student representative, Sophia DeStefanis. Did I get it right? Okay.
Yes, that was good. That was good. You guys are catching on quick. Wow. Okay. We have our April Citizen of the Month. This is Sylvia. She is an awesome sophomore. She's a leader in both the Jewish Student Union as well as the Best Buddies program. And she's really just an awesome student who reaches out to everyone, who tries to get involved in everything, and is like an inspiration. And she's doing this at she's very young. She's a whole year younger than me, so I can really say that, And, I'm inspired by her and everything that she does. And then for our Staff of the Month, we have Miss Benson. She is one of the favorite counselors. I don't have her myself, but I do love her. This is an awesome picture of her on a hike, cresting the peak and everything. But she is a super supportive counselor. The seniors have had a blast using her to their advantage and helping with college apps and everything. And she just really cares for everyone in the school and tries to make a positive impact on everyone. Then for the normal updates, we had teacher appreciation last week, and it went very well. I've heard from teachers, I hope that there was nothing bad to hear, but I've heard from teachers that they had a lovely time at the breakfast and that the baskets went very well. We have our student government elections coming up very soon, which is very exciting, so hopefully I'm still here next year. We'll see. We have a student-teacher basketball game on Monday to raise funds for mental health, as it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're trying to get a lot more participation in that. We have only one more meeting of a student council meeting with our seniors, and then they're all gone, and they have their finals coming up very soon, and the APs are coming to a close. Thank God.
Thank you, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So we have a number of presentations tonight. The first one, Ms. Keys, did you want to speak? I know you were talking in, but we skipped you. I didn't know if you had anything you wanted.
I got nothing.
Okay. So our first presentation tonight is from the Food Services Department.
I will steer slides for you, so just tell me
Oh, all
when
right,
you're
so we
ready
just-
for the next one.
Okay. Thank you for having us. I feel like you're so far away.
I know.
You can go closer.
Thank you for having us. I'm Denise Boucher, I'm the Director of Food Services, Food Nutrition Services, sort of the new tag. And I'll let Alexa introduce herself.
Yes, I'm Alexa Dance. I'm the Assistant Director of Food Services.
So basic agenda, you guys can see, we'll go through the different things, introduction, some wins, some challenges, some initiatives, some next steps, and then a final thought. as well as questions. So we have an amazingly diverse team, 52-member team who serves over 4,000 meals a day across 11 schools, which includes the preschool. And we are incredibly thankful that the preschool is now located at Arlington High School because it makes serving the preschool so much easier. We operate under what's called the National School Lunch Program, which is it's a federally funded assisted meal program. And we also are so lucky to be in Massachusetts, where we have permanently free meals, breakfast and lunch since 2022 to 2023. So this has been a huge impact on Massachusetts as well as families in Arlington. Families just, they don't have to apply. They automatically can get breakfast and lunch. I distinctly remember prior to COVID and prior to this being instituted, where we would have families come in and apply for free and reduced lunch, and they would be slightly over the limit. So you have, a very strict guidelines, like this is how many people in the household, this is what their income is. And I think there's a large group of that in Arlington. So this just makes it so much easier for families to get some of the services they need and be able to eat breakfast and lunch at school. So I just talked a little bit about how it's funded. So the federal money covers the students that qualify for free and reduced based on certain criteria. Some of those criteria are things like receiving SNAP, living in a household that has TANF, foster care, unhoused, or part of a migrant education program. And then Massachusetts then takes up the rest of those that don't qualify based under those programs or based financially. And then this is kind of one of those strange things I should have put at the beginning, but I find this fascinating that the National School Lunch Program was enacted in 1946, and the biggest thing was World War II, and they had these young gentlemen that were coming up into the military, and they weren't passing the military physicals based on their nutrition. They're poor in their lack of nutrition. So this is when, Truman decided, all right, let's pass this act and get this moving forward. So up here too, and also I skipped a little bit, but what makes a school lunch? So in order for us to get a reimbursement, we have to follow some very strict standards. We have to follow calorie limits. We have to follow saturated fat limits. We have to follow sodium limits. We have to follow added sugar limits. And for each lunch, a student has to take 3 out of the 5 components that are listed there. And for breakfast, in order for us to get reimbursed, they have to take 3 out of the food items, and they also have to take a fruit, and at lunch they have to take a fruit or vegetable in order for us to get reimbursed. So at first when I was doing this slide, I kind of was laughing to myself and going, is this something that I really want to put out there and just sort of, but I'm so excited that we're fully staffed. So I don't know if people can appreciate this. I'm sure you can. Teachers can probably appreciate it from when we were going through this stage after COVID where we couldn't get staff, or we had staff for 2 days and they would leave. And it was very common in the service industry. It was very common in food service. It was common across the state. So we are so incredibly thankful to finally be at a stage where we are, fully staffed. No matter what, we had to serve lunch. There was no, putting 2 classrooms together and putting a teacher to cover both classrooms. No matter what, we had to serve lunch at all the schools. And we did it. It was very trying. It was very hard, but we did it, and here we are. So now we're at a point where we are fully staffed, so we can now move forward and start doing some of the things that we've been implementing this year, which has been pretty amazing. I touched upon universal free meals too. That again is huge for everyone, all the students in Massachusetts. It removes the barriers. It allows more students to participate. More students participate. The more funds come in, the better our program is, the better food that we can serve to these kids. So as you can see, breakfast growth was huge, lunch expansion was huge, and we are really hoping to sort of continue that. We will talk about some barriers a little bit further down, but for now, things look pretty good.
So in addition to everything that Denise has mentioned so far, part of our strategic plan this year has been to enhance our meals for the students by providing them with more culturally responsive menus. So we provided our staff with a training through the John Stalker Institute. It stands for CRISP. It also stands for Culinary Resources Inspiring School Professionals. So essentially what this program was, we brought in a chef for 12 weeks at our high school, and our chef worked with our manager to help her navigate some difficulties that she was experiencing in the kitchen, and just providing her with that confidence to assure that she was able to provide these wonderful meals for the students. So as we have highlighted on our slides here, we have some beautiful photos from World Language Week at Arlington High School. This past March, we worked with the World Language Director and the department to see if we could provide the students with some meals relevant to some of the languages that are taught throughout the high school. So our first dish that we had, it was a French-inspired dish. It's chicken provencal. It was very delicious. The second dish that we had was more of an Asian-style Dan Dan noodle bowl. Our third slide that we have photographed is a street taco bowl with chicken tacos with locally sourced corn tortillas, which was also really cool. We've been working on enhancing our menu options by providing a lot of local fruits and vegetables to the students as well. And our last photo is a cacio e pepe, which was more of an Italian-style inspired dish. And we received tons of magnificent feedback from that, and the staff had a wonderful time putting that together too.
So culinary excellence, we've really been trying to give, as you see, we've really been trying to give our team and our managers some amazing training. Some of our managers went to this intensive 5-day culinary boot camp in the summer. They drove down there. It was, where was it? In Dover, Sherburne? It was
Yeah, Dover,
so it was a hike for them. But it was able for them to gain some really hands-on scratch cooking experience, trying some new culture diverse menus and recipes that they could taste test with everyone there and bring back to their teams. Really develop some leadership skills. And I think they feel empowered to then come back and share these skills with, their teammates, and also us investing in them, they feel valued. And everyone knows that it always, obviously, when you feel valued and people are putting effort into you, it just makes you feel better when you work, and you come back and you can share that with your coworkers.
So with that being said, we are highlighting another food and nutrition services win. We got a state recognition award for our terrific tray, which was a program put together by Mass Farm to School and the DESE department, the Office of Food and Nutrition Programs. And this was something that they have created for school nutrition programs to highlight what they are really doing for their schools and what they're really doing for their students, and how important it is to make sure our students are sourced with local fruits, local vegetables, and how we're working with farms and making sure that the farms are getting that recognition as well. So this dish that we have that is provided, it is a Cambodian style ACMi curry. It was also inspired by our high school kitchen manager as well as our lead cook at Arlington High School. And it featured sweet potatoes, carrots, cauliflowers, and donut peaches, all locally sourced from farms that we use on a regular basis. In addition to that, we also received a National Achievement Award at Arlington High School. It was a Healthy Meals Incentive Award provided by the USDA, and these awards, again, were also put together because we want to highlight all of the different varieties that we are providing for our kitchens and for our students, and some of that included some scratch-made cooking. Menu options that we had were Hawaiian poke bowls, chicken curry, and butter chicken. We did multiple taste testing at a smaller level before we were able to provide this on our menus. And it's been a wonderful experience and very nice. And again, thank you, Dr. Holman, for the recognition. We really appreciate that.
So some advocacy. So Alexa last year had actually received a first-timers grant to attend the Legislative Action Conference, and as a district we were able to send her again this year, which is amazing, where she's able to have direct engagement with lawmakers regarding some regulatory challenges, as well as looking at the new dietary guidelines and how that potentially is going to come down the road and affect the child nutrition program. So I'll let her explain a little bit.
Sure. So it was a very liberating experience for sure, being able to be in Washington, D.C. and meet with I met with Congresswoman Catherine Clark's aide, and it was very exciting because she represents the town of Arlington, and I also met with the aides of Ayanna Pressley and Congressman Lynch as well, and it was nice to kind of talk to them and let them know, some of the potential struggles that we may have. We are currently adhering to the 2020-2025 dietary guidelines. However, now that we have phased that out, and we are now expected to follow the 2025 and 2030 dietary guidelines, which also includes eliminating or decreasing the amount of ultra-processed foods. We're just looking for a clearer definition from lawmakers and what that really means and how that's going to impact our program down the line. Thankfully, it's something that we do not have to really focus on at this point in time, but in the future, it's something that we're going to have to put into focus.
It usually takes them about 5 years for that to trickle down to the child nutrition program. So there's time to have that back and forth conversation about what is an ultra-processed food, what that means for districts. Does that mean all 100% scratch cooking? How does that work with kitchen sizes and all that kind of thing? And so we'll see how that sort of plays out down the road.
And with that, we have been able, for APS, we have been able to reduce our sodium options that we have provided for students. So we were able to make our own seasoning blends, make our own marinades, which has really helped a lot with decreasing the sodium that we were providing for students in prior time. We've increased protein options as well, specifically at breakfast time, but providing more nutrient efficient foods for the students. And we've also reduced sugar options as well.
So some more wins. So working with Rachel Laveri, the sustainability coordinator for the schools, we were able to secure the Mass EP Reduce, Reuse, Repair microgrant. So the goal with that is obviously we're trying to reduce single-use items, especially like plastic utensils in the district. We were able to transition from the compostable trays to the reusable stainless steel trays at the Gibbs School. They actually have a decent setup that we were able to do that at that school. But also moving from the plastic disposable utensils to the stainless steel flat. We're at 3 schools, almost 5. By next week, there'll be 5 schools. And moving towards using the single-use condiment dispensers versus packets and whatnot, and working with the Rethink disposable of a case study that really is examining. It's kind of amazing how much waste, when you start adding up the tonnage, it's like mind-boggling, even just like the compostable trays or the packets for the ketchup. So we're really hoping that moving towards next year that we can transition some more. And again, there's some challenges with space and whatnot in the schools, but we're actually looking at, there are companies that will come in, basically like linen service, take your dirty stuff, give you clean stuff, and exchange it out. So that's something that we're looking at possibly for next year, obviously depending on many factors. So. Okay, I hate it. It's like always challenges. You hate sort of bringing up your challenges or airing, the not dirty laundry, but sort of any challenges that you might be having. So for us, the biggest thing is space, and space in our kitchens. Especially you look at the Bishop kitchen, we have such incredibly higher numbers now, and we're serving, more kids, and we're serving different foods and a variety of foods and cut up fruits and cut up vegetables, and you need the space to do that. You need a storage space to store more food. So we look at the Bishop and we look at the Hardy, and we're like, okay, how can we problem solve now? So we're really looking at sort of how can we efficiently use that space? What can we do sort of moving forward? Also looking at some of the aging equipment that we have in some of these schools. Can we remove some of the obsolete stuff? Can we get equipment that does more than one thing? So really trying to look at the space now. Now that we have a full crew of staff, we can really focus more on sort of the actual physical facilities that they are actually working in to try to produce these meals for the students. So that has been sort of a challenge. Training can be a tricky one too with our schedules, and as far as getting the whole team together. We don't have sort of half days. We feed kids on half days. It's harder. A lot of our kids, a lot of our parents employees are parents, so they have young kids in the school, so they have to get home right after school to get their kids. One of the great things, though, the administration has done for us is on the November Professional Development Day, we are not serving lunch, so that's a great time for our team. Yeah. We get together and we are able to do our big trainings. And also we're trying to do them in little smaller pieces, little sort of micro trainings, and try to do it that way. So again, it is a challenge, and we're working on some solutions. So. Okay, so as far as next steps, we really want to sort of expand on a lot of the things that we've already started on. We really want to be culture responsive and representative menus and food items, and really work with, Excellent Access and Opportunity Department. I've talked to Margaret, I've talked to Kate, in how we can engage, students and student affinity groups and get feedback, and continue our staff training on the importance of why it's important to recognize other cultures, other foods that you may not be familiar with. So it's important that we train our staff to be cognizant of that as well. Also, to increase, we talked about scratch cooking. It's lower sodium, lower added sugar when you can make your own seasonings, when you make your own sauces, when you're scratch cooking, and using taste tests and refine the recipes, and working with students and having them give feedback to be able to sort of make those to put those into our regular rotation. And also, again, to continue to assess the current facilities and the feasibility, and even just working with the facilities department, who's been great, or like saying, oh, I really want to put this in there. Is there enough electricity? Are we going to blow fuses? Are we going to? So, really making the effort just to work with the other departments too, to make sure that we can do some of these changes to some of these facilities. And also, we talked about looking at companies to outsource some of the stuff, the cleaning and like I mentioned, the linen type of dishware exchange. So those are the things that we're really working towards in the next years, and we'll continue to work on. So one final thing, I would be remiss if I didn't put this in here. So I actually started here, it's almost 20 years ago, which blows my mind. So when I started here, I remember talking to Janet, and I used to work at the Board of Health, so I knew Janet a little bit more than 20 years ago. And I would inspect the kitchen, and I met her through that way. And then I remember when I started working with her, and I said, I can't imagine how, she was there 30 years at the time, how can you do anything for 30 years? Like, how can you do, and here I am 20 years later, right? And she's 50 years. Like, it's mind-boggling. And not often does a department get to have the institutional knowledge or the honor or the privilege to have someone in their department like this. Obviously, it takes an amazing person. I mean, she continues to grow and learn. She doesn't say stagnant. She doesn't say status quo. She doesn't say, well, we used to always do it this way. This is how we always did. I mean, she does sometimes. but most of the time, and she's trying new foods. She's expanded her palate. She doesn't just eat, the Italian and the Irish food that she's been used to. So it's truly amazing to watch her grow. But it's also a testament to the town and a testament to this district, because people don't stick around and work where they don't want to be. So it is a testament to this district that she is still here 50 years later and out there doing the register and talking to the kids and whatnot. So, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anything you wanted to say before questions?
Only that it is so impressive to me how much your team has embraced the work of the strategic plan. You were in the working groups. Alexa, it has been a joy to have you on the team.
Thank you.
And it shows in the work that you're doing, in the meals the kids are getting, in the fact that more and more of them are opting to have their lunches and breakfasts at school, and in the dedication that you've shown to providing. This is the only district I am aware of that provides the before care for free to families with the breakfast and with it wrapped into the service model of the school system. And when we talked to you about that, you were all in right away. And knowing that we have a team this dedicated, I mean, this is why Janet's been with us.
Well, 100%. I mean, yeah.
But your leadership is also a testament to all of that too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? Mr. Thielman?
Yeah, this is a great presentation. I didn't realize we have all these good things going on. Could you say more about the space constraints? Are there constraints in the high school, you told me?
Well, so this is the thing. When we first started planning the high school, right, so they look at the numbers way back when, right? They look at the numbers, they make projections, they make the kitchen built on a certain size of a projection of what you're going to serve or how many students you're going to serve. Yeah. Then lunch became free.
Oh.
So it expanded. Then they do such an amazing job here, it expanded. Definitely could use more room, but trust me, they make it work. It's still a little small, but it's make it work. They make it work. It's more to bring some of the things that we're doing at the high school into the lower levels. It's a lot of the space issues that are in the smaller schools, and it's just really trying to figure out sort of the best way to move forward with that.
Okay, well, it's good to hear. So the high school kitchen could have been bigger.
It could have been, yeah.
Hard to do anything about it now.
Exactly, but
kind of a little issue there, but that's good to know.
We've taken over a little space, and yeah.
I have a question about portions for the students.
Yeah.
Like, how do you?
So we have guidelines,
Yeah.
and then we have like sort of serving utensils that correlate to that. So in each school and each grade level, it's based on sort of a calorie content. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah. So the younger kids, obviously it's smaller portions, where the high school kids, it's bigger portions.
Yeah. I was one of those kids who needed seconds.
I know, and I know, exactly, I know. Trust me, we have, that would be Janet behind the counter, like, here you go, you know.
There you go.
But yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Encourage
I
them
like
to get their
Janet.
fruits and
Lots of
vegetables.
fruits and vegetables, we don't limit that. And actually, the high school kids are amazing with they have no problem getting their fruit and vegetables, so.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Allison Ampe?
Thank you for this. So a couple things. One, it'd be great if we could make this into something that's short and digestible for parents to read, because it's like they should be hearing, I mean, this is like a shining star, and I don't think hardly anybody knows, right? So I'm not sure what the best way is to make sure they actually see it, but, so that's one thing. And I also had the question about whether the high school kitchen was adequate in size, because we're talking about another building project, and I want to be sure that we right size that one.
100%, that one would
yeah.
be much bigger.
Okay. And then finally, I'm wondering, how is it working out in terms of timing for all the kids to get their food and have time to eat it?
So that was going to be one of my challenges, but I wasn't sure how to exactly. So lunchtime, in an ideal world, these kids would have a longer lunch period at every single school across the board. I know there's logistics, I know there's time on learning, I know there's all sorts of issues with that. High school kids, ideally, I mean, we have 3 lunches. Ideally, if we could have 4 lunches to spread them out, we would have more kids, I bet, even participate. Gibbs School currently has 2 lunches, which I know Andrew's looking at next year, because we have lower counts at that school, which I know we would have much higher counts if it was spread out more and the kids had more time and didn't see the lines to come through. Elementary, the beginning of the year is always tricky, but we always look at it's like 4 to 5 minutes for the kids to get through the line, and it's fairly quick. And then they have about the 15 minutes to, if they sit down quietly, you know, if they come down on time, you know what I mean? If they sit quietly and eat, and aren't, you know, the kindergartners are doing whatever. But yeah, so ideally in an ideal world, we would love more time, and I know that's sort of you probably hear that from a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Haynes Copperthorne?
Yeah, this was an excellent presentation. I was curious how often you're able to provide the culturally responsive meals, and are there more resources needed if you aren't able to provide them as often as you'd like?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with training, and making sure that we're really trying hard to represent as many different cultures as possible without inadvertently missing certain ethnicities or cultures or groups. And we're not perfect, you know what I'm saying? And we do want to be able to, in an ideal world, do more than, 1 a month or 2 a month. So that is our goal, and that's why we're starting sort of, I would say, small and moving to be able to do a lot more. So, and that's where we're talking too about with the affinity groups. We want to really look at what are some of these kids actually eating at home too. Like, we want to be more, genuine in our representation of what we serve. So,
Thank you.
Did you have any?
Did you see Mr. Schlickman joined?
I saw Mr. Schlickman join, yes.
So first of all, just thank you so much for this presentation. I can't remember the last time that we heard from you, and I think it's so important, as Dr. Allison Ampe said, about the community hearing about the really important work that you do feeding our students every single day. Students are not able to access learning if they are hungry, and so having the opportunity to eat at breakfast at school and then lunch to make sure that they can make it through the day is so important. So thank you for that information. I think it's really important. Some of the things that I was thinking about you mentioned, but I just want to reiterate. I appreciate the things that you talked about, the locally sourced foods, and I'm glad to hear that that's sort of something that's increasing. And also the PD opportunities, not only just continuing your training, but as you said, it helps to make staff feel, feel like they belong and they're important in the role that they play. It is as important as the teachers and the paraprofessionals and everyone else that's working in our schools. And then the last thing is a question, and it's sort of a wondering. I know some districts have made moves towards like Meatless Monday or something like that. I'm just curious, is that something that you have?
We've done it before, and we have talked about it, and yes, we actually, especially at the high school, we accommodate daily, because we have they have a varied menu that's beyond what actually is being, they serve way more than what's actually sort of on the menu. But we haven't advertised it per se as, a meatless day. But yes, no, that is definitely something that.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think I'm looking at a menu
Yeah, no.
now, and I think from providing that opportunity for a family that chooses not
Yes,
to eat,
yes.
eat
Yep.
meat, but also from a sort of sustainability
Yes.
piece of it, sort of like
Yes.
the district not
Right.
contributing
To the
one day a week.
masses. Yep, no, it makes sense.
So just curious.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
I have a question. I remember hearing some discussion when we first started having the universal school meals. If the federal government is subsidizing the people who sort of are eligible, but we don't, and I think this is great, we don't actually make people apply anymore. I've seen in the materials, like you're encouraging people to apply because there are other benefits they get, but is that a challenge in terms of the way that the funding streams come down? Like in terms of participation, in terms of whatever percentages you are able to report of these people are eligible and we're serving another however many percentage, how is that a challenge?
I would say moving forward, that is something that we could probably push more and ask more people to apply if they're not already getting benefits, if they're not getting, some of those ones that I listed that are automatically directly certified.
Okay, so those people you have
Yes.
that. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And I just want to say that I haven't made school lunch in a long time because of you all. And my children know that if they don't find something on the menu that they like, then they have to make their own lunch. So they don't do that often. But one thing I really appreciate is even when my kids don't make the choice to try something new, which I see something on the menu, I'm like, look at this thing that's never been on the menu before. Just seeing the item on the menu and seeing that some of their classmates are choosing that, I think has this incremental effect on the way they see food and the way they view their classmates. And so even if you don't have huge take-up rates on the butter chicken,
Right. But they're going up because students are seeing other students enjoying it. So
and they trust their friends
Yes.
way more than they trust
adults.
me.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that we're here. My 3rd and 5th grader are appreciating it, and therefore I am.
Thank you. It's nice to hear.
Mr. Schlickman, did you have any questions?
I have one comment. Is that when I hear that you don't want to talk about the challenges, that's exactly what I want to hear about. Because that's the thing we can do something about. You're doing great work. And if you're running into issues, we're here to help.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the CPAC report. Elizabeth McWhorter and Ann Weissman.
Before we jump in, can I just clarify how much time we have? I can't tell in the new agenda format.
Presentation, and we do have library.
Okay, 12 minutes for the presentation.
Great.
We do have two more items on the agenda after.
Yep, okay, great. I will be brief, and some of this is repetitive from previous presentations, so that's great. Okay, so my name is Elizabeth McWhorter. I'm the co-chair of the Arlington CPAC, which is the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. And we're here to do our, now it's biannual because we came on October, report out to the school committee. So we can flip to the next slide. So first, I wanted to kind of reframe how we think about the population that we care most about. So we talk a lot about students with disabilities. We talk about students who have IEPs or 504 plans. But when we as the CPAC board and the CPAC membership are thinking about this, we're thinking about all students who are diagnosed or not diagnosed, who have learning differences, who have challenges engaging with the school district without additional support and help. One statistic that always sticks in my mind is projections that within the next 15 years, 40% of our workforce will self-identify as being neurodivergent. So that means that 40% of the kids that are in our classrooms today, at some point, either have or will be identifying as neurodivergent. So that means that when we're talking about the population that we most care about, we're actually talking about almost half of the student population, if not more. We can flip to the next slide. So first, a couple of celebrations. So one, just wanted to give out all the kudos to everybody in this room for everything that you did to make the override successful. This directly benefits all of the kids that we care most about. And so thank you for everything that you've done. The process that you all went through, the amount of time that you dedicated to community engagement, selecting feedback. The last time I sat here, I was giving feedback on how things were positioned, and it really went a long way to building trust with parents, with families, because we saw that you all were listening and making changes and being responsive. So thank you for the amount of time and dedication that went into that. That is no small feat, and we wanted to call that out explicitly. We also wanted to congratulate ourselves a little bit for a moment. We've seen an increase in engagement from families with the CPAC. So we've seen over 10% social media growth. Our newsletter subscription is now 300 plus subscribers, and we have a 50% open rate, which is very, very, very good. So it shows that those that we're engaging with are growing, and that they value what we're bringing to the table. We're also deepening our engagement with other parts of the school district. So I want to give a huge thank you to Allison Elmer, who has spent countless hours talking to me, explaining things to me, answering my questions, and thinking about how we can deepen our relationship as the CPAC and the administration. Also a huge thank you to Liz Exton for joining us at the beginning of the year, the school year that is, to talk about what it means to meaningfully advocate and engage with the school committee. That really set a foundation for how we think about our role today. So thank you so much for doing that. And then we're looking forward to deepening our relationship with the MLPAC, which, as I'm sure you all know, there is significant overlap between those that the MLPAC represents and those that the CPAC represents. And then the other thing that we're paying attention to is movement on state legislation. In particular, two bills that have been making their way through the legislative process that are focused on fair process for kind of rethinking how DESE and families come together and figure out what's best for kids. And also the ways that, and then a separate bill that's really thinking about, and policy that's thinking about, how do PACs and parents actually engage more deeply with policymakers at the local level. So next thing we wanted to celebrate is we've kicked off what we're calling our CPAC shout-outs. So these are kind of like the stars that we give out to teachers and staff every year, but this is focused on those who really stand out from a parent's perspective. Parents are nominating for really going above and beyond or doing things that make a huge difference in their lives. So our inaugural shout-out recipients we're announcing tonight are two OMS staff members, Leanne Carr and Andrea Lab. These staff went above and beyond with a particular kid who was kind of at risk of kind of getting lost in their middle school experience. And they spent a lot of time engaging, building trust, both with the child and the family and the other teachers in the learning community. And that kid is coming back. And those kinds of experiences are the things that can make the difference between a child getting through their school experience and thriving as they move into adulthood, and those who get lost in the shuffle. So these will be accepting nominations on a rolling basis, and are really excited about this because there's amazing things that are happening every day in Arlington Public Schools. Thank you. So Wanted to give a quick overview and a reminder of some of the key data points as we look back on the survey that we completed last spring, so a year ago. We have opted not to redo the survey this year. It's an enormous amount of effort, in particular, that goes into analyzing the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of open responses that we get. And so we did some consultation with other CPACs and leaders who have done this more often, and their advice was to do it every 2 to 3 years, because that's really where you're going to see more significant movement that you can kind of make assessments on. And we had already seen that. Data hadn't really changed significantly between the last 2 years that we administered it. But we wanted to lift up a couple of things that we think are still really important to hold center. So one is around service delivery and progress. And when we say progress, we mean progress for an individual child. So the key message here is that parents report positive perceptions of individual service providers. So they remark on the amazing experiences they have with those OMS educators. They talk about specific investments that schools are making in Orton-Gillingham instruction for dyslexic students. They call out the specifics. Where we tend to have disconnects, and we hear this consistently and anecdotally, is when you start to get into the minutia of the paperwork and the reporting and the data. And so we're seeing this opportunity to really dig into how do we take what's happening at that relational level and use that to better understand what is creating challenges around progress measurement and then the progress itself that parents are reporting, having significantly less positive perceptions of. We can flip to the next slide. The next piece that I wanted to remind us of, because we talked quite a bit, or you all talked, we also talked quite a bit about what are the challenges of things like fees. And we wanted to lift up the fact that special education parents and families are also carrying a significant financial burden when they are having to pay for additional services outside of the school building, when they are required to obtain the assistance of advocates or legal counsel in some cases. 96% of those who responded to the survey said that they had paid for private evaluations of their child in addition to the evaluations that were provided by the school. So we would be remiss in not highlighting the significant financial investment that families in Arlington feel that they need to make in order to successfully navigate special education and special education services for their children to be successful. And we are concerned in part because that means that there are going to be students who are missed because their parents can't access that kind of support. And so the question that we continuously come back to is, how do we ensure that we can mitigate those barriers and the financial requirements to engage effectively in many cases, in particular for those who can't afford to do so? We can flip to the next slide. So one piece that we wanted to lift up is, you all asked last October, what's happening at Gibbs? There's new leadership. So we asked. And here we have a pretty good story of some positive movement. So for providers and staff, there was 100% positive feedback. Everybody, it was a small amount of people who responded to the survey, but everybody had good things to say about providers and staff. Communication and transition areas continue to be something to watch. We know this. This is consistent with what we've heard in the past. We've talked about this a great deal. We did see some positive shift here, but it continues to be a significant difference between that. Providers and staff, 100% good, down to 33%, 43%. So I think that's a place that we can continue to work on, but we feel kind of cautiously optimistic there. We can flip to the next slide. Okay, so we wanted to now kind of zoom out for a moment and go from that survey data to what have we actually seen happening, and what have we heard about over the last year. So what's kind of the anecdotal data that we're collecting? And we want to talk about this in two categories. So we've got grass tops. So decision makers, folks like you who are driving change from a policy level, and then grassroots. So what are the things that are happening on the ground in our school buildings that make a difference? And the reason why we want to pair these things together is because the missing middle oftentimes in innovation, which is what this is how do you carry up the grassroots to the grass tops? And we think that there's a valuable opportunity for the school committee to actually help illuminate some of those things that should be lifted up and ask questions and prioritize time for ensuring that those grassroots efforts are also lifted up to the grass tops conversations. So quickly, grass tops category, MTSS is enormous. We're really grateful for the continued implementation there and the dedicated resources that are happening. Training and universal design for learning and the changes to the DCAP are huge steps forward. So we're very grateful for that. We have also noticed that there has been a significant prioritization of special education experience in hiring, in particular in leadership positions at school buildings. So I know that the assistant principal position at the Brackett School, all 3 finalists have started their careers in special education. And one of the things that we had been very concerned about is that we hadn't seen that happening from a principal or assistant principal level previously, which means that they don't have the insights, they don't have the lived experience in the same way to be asking the questions that they need to ask as school leadership to drive change. So we're really grateful for that as well. The other thing that I wanted to name explicitly as a grass top strategy is kudos to Dr. Homan for all of those hours listening, in particular to special education parents, because I know that those are the ones who mostly showed up to your listening sessions, because that was an enormous trust building activity. And so thank you for spending the time doing that listening and building those connections, because it showed that there's actually an open door and a listening ear, which is a really, really important move from a parent perspective. From the grassroots, and I've completely lost track of time, so I'm so sorry. Okay, so I just want to give 2 things. We are hearing lots and lots of things that are little positive points of change, and I want to call out one, which is this picture, which is our difference make us shine like stars. This is currently up in the Brackett hallways, and I might cry for a minute because this is a really big deal. I have 2 dyslexic children. I have one who's currently enrolled at Brackett. I have another who we had to pull from Brackett because he had made no progress in 4 years. When he was in 1st grade and we said, there's something else wrong here, they said, oh, do you think it might be dyslexia? We don't talk about that here. There is now a poster up on the wall that doesn't just talk about dyslexia, but it talks about dyspraxia, it talks about dyscalculia, it talks about ADHD, it talks about autism, and it positions those as strengths. So the fact that in 6 years, in one school building, you were able to take it from a place where we didn't talk, we didn't name things, to a place where my child comes home pitching a fit because she and her classmates are fighting over what's dyspraxia and what's dyscalculia and what's dyslexia and which one implicates math, is enormous. And that is the kind of change that we need to continue to be focusing on. And then I just want to close it out with 1 more minute. So if we could flip to the 2 slides. There are a couple of things in there that we can talk about later, but I just want to, this one. So I want to name that as the CPAC, we spend a lot of time on what I think of as naming the elephant, which is naming the thing that is deeply uncomfortable, bringing it up to the surface, because it's already there, it's already present. And only when we talk about it, only when we say dyslexia, can we actually have meaningful conversations about it. And we are very aware that in 3 years, we'll be talking about another override. And we are very aware that special education is a significant cost lever within this community. And so we want to be part of conversations now that will help us understand how we can think about things like redistricting or reorganizing, or what it means to deploy staffing in a way that allows us to ensure that schools as small as Pierce, where we do not have enough specialists focused on reading to support the population of students that need it, and schools as large as Addison Middle School and the high school have what they need. so that we're being smart about how we serve every single student, regardless of what building they happen to be sitting in. That's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, I went over time.
No, it was worth it.
Okay.
Questions or did you want to speak at all?
Thank you for such a thoughtful presentation, for naming things that are specific and big that we've worked on. I really appreciate it. And actually wouldn't mind like a list of some of those small specific things so that we
Happy to share those things.
highlight them.
Yep.
That reminds me that we need to have another
Yeah.
meeting at some
Yes.
point. So
Would love to.
also the listening sessions were an absolute joy for me too. So it reminded me how wonderful it is to talk to folks in a small setting.
Yeah.
And so I'm already thinking about how to do some more of that next year. But
We welcome that.
I enjoyed it very much, and you're welcome, and thank you.
Questions? Dr. Allison Ampe?
So thank you very much for this. It's really helpful. I'm thinking about all the things you've said, but just one comment in terms of the survey. I wonder, I realize it's a big amount of work, but I wonder if you could just alternate years with written responses and years where it's just numeric, you don't get a chance to put a written response. It's
yeah.
just, and you tell people that we're doing it for this reason. We're not trying to, you'll get your chance to write something next year, but that way you'd have something that, so you could see progress over time. And I don't know, it's just, it's helpful to me to have things that continue.
Sure.
But it wouldn't be nearly so much work for you.
Yeah.
And maybe you'd get more people doing the written responses because they're like, well, I didn't get to say anything last year. So.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that suggestion.
Okay. So, but I appreciate everything you've brought to us. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a quick question.
Go ahead.
On the multilingual learners
Mm-hmm.
and this cost of slide in terms of like paying for private evaluation, like how do those parents receive support that you're hearing from? Are they also in part of this number that's reflected through your survey work, or?
So we don't ask specifically, I don't think, in the survey whether or not somebody is also a multilingual learner. We could definitely do that. What we've found is, and one of the things we need to figure out is we're almost entirely English speaking within the CPAC. We have very limited resources in terms of ability to translate. It's all volunteer run, and so we're limited in terms of how we collaborate, so it has to be done in collaboration, and we're just trying to figure that out now. So we don't have good data on that. I don't know if you have anything.
The one thing that I would add is we try to do a lot of one-on-one outreach. If someone comes to us and they say, I've got a child, I'm not sure what's happening, how do we navigate the system, the special ed system? It's a double burden, I find, for families who maybe don't grow up in the U.S. systems. And so those families we really want to connect with. And the MLPAC, I think, is a way to bridge the gap there, because a lot of times those families will then go on to ask us questions that we don't have the expertise in, but I know that MLPAC would. And so if we had a closer working relationship with that group, then I think we could more globally meet the needs of not a small amount of the outreach we get, because the one-on-one outreach tends to be like ML families.
Yeah. I also think, just a note, I have a friend who runs a nonprofit in the DC metro area that does specific support for immigrant families, and what they've found is that the cultural differences for different home countries that people are coming from are very significant, and so they actually have different trainings for different backgrounds, because the expectations of how you navigate a school system are so different than those of us who have grown up in the United States, and in particular as white people in the United States. And so I think considering that as Arlington continues to become more culturally diverse is something that we should be having conversations about.
I'm just curious if maybe there's a connection be made with the Welcome Center.
Yeah.
As a way to connect to those families, and because I know you all are very organized and very vocal group, so I'm sure that they would appreciate if they needed to have a champion in you all.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. And we do get referrals from the Welcome Center sometimes.
So we always refer back to.
Oh, yeah. I just want to note that we're going to talk about this in my update, I think. But the consolidation of departments in central office means that Dr. Thomas will be sort of acting as liaison, like the Welcome Center had been acting as liaison for both the MLPAC and the CPAC.
Great.
And so that's a point of connection there potentially. And we're working directly with the MLPAC to surface kind of what their plans are for next year. And they've had a little more steady leadership over the last couple of years, which is helpful for collaboration between the two groups. So we're getting there.
We'd love to
I
have
like
a
the
similar
idea of
conversation.
working with them.
Dr. Allison, maybe?
Is there anything we could supply to help with translation? Any resources?
So, would you like to speak to this? I know you manage a lot of it.
I think so.
Oh, did you mean
I'd have to
survey
go back and
No, I
look.
meant when they're doing their one-on-ones.
For meetings and stuff?
For meetings and stuff.
So we have vendors who we can contract. This is a major cost to the district, translation and interpretation. And in certain circumstances, we must have a human translator. In other cases, we do not necessarily need to. If you were to have someone reach out and there was a language barrier, you should definitely let us know, because we have tools that you can use. We had somebody call the office today and speak to us in Portuguese, and we were able to quickly pivot to have an interpretation device help us with the conversation, only to learn that they spoke enough English to get us through the conversation. But it still worked out because we were able to figure that out in Portuguese with a little device. So we do have some tools that help with things like this. They can be harder in like a larger meeting, and so we would just have to plan accordingly, because the second you involve a human interpreter, the cost goes up pretty quickly, and we have to reserve some of that fund for regulatory requirements for interpreters.
Yeah, no, I knew that we've been working
Yes,
towards
we've been
having
working
some
on that.
other options, and I wanted to be sure that you understand that they're out there and that you have access to them and how we get that access.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Schlickman? Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. McWhorter mentioned, she and I work closely. We meet monthly, at least monthly.
At least.
More than that. And I've worked with Ms. Weissman as well as I was going to say Crossy, but I was going to say, is it not working?
It's closer to you, I think.
Is it now? It doesn't sound like it's reverberating like everybody else's. But, so we have, there was a change in leadership 2 years ago, and so we have been each year, I think, working together more closely and looking forward to continued partnership. I know we just recently had another board member participate in administrative search that we are conducting, and Ms. McWhorter is on the visioning committee for OMS, so just want to thank you again for that partnership.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we are going to hear from the library team.
Thank you for your patience.
Yes. They brought their props.
Rashmi travels with them.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to speak. We are the library and the digital learning team. I just wanted to quickly introduce, we have Stacy Kitsis, our AHS librarian and K-12 lead library teacher. Stacy has laryngitis, so she had a very long part in our presentation, so we are going to try to manage. Thank you, Stacy, for trusting us. We have Christine Collins. She is our Stratton librarian. We have Jennifer Lachlan, our Gibbs librarian, and Melissa Maldonado, our Dallin librarian. So we are excited to be in front of you talking about our library program and how it's evolving. We also have a huge, huge thank you to all of you. Today we can very proudly say that all K-12 schools across APS have a certified K-12 librarian in the school, and that's because of you. You've supported us. I think it's 20 years in the making, and it has happened. So we're very grateful. And I just want to say thank you and hand it over to Chrissy.
All right, so the library team has been able to conduct more in-depth instruction in library skills, research, and media literacy while leading reading promotions and hosting events to foster a deeper love of reading. The library team has also provided professional development to other staff and assisted with resource curation. As a result, circulation of physical materials is at an all-time high, as well as increased use of digital content on Sora. Our database usage from early elementary through 12th grade has been increasing consistently year to year as our professional library staffing has increased. Next slide. All right, so research shows a correlation between student achievement and fully staffed and funded library programs, an effect which is even stronger for our most vulnerable learners. Library programs lay the groundwork for informed civic participation, a love of reading, and a path to lifelong learning. They promote critical thinking, cognitive rigor, and curiosity. They expose students to multiple perspectives and create opportunities for flexible thinking. They provide safe spaces. They set the bar for instructional collaboration. And if you have time after the meeting, please click through this document and the infographics on our appendix slide at the end for more information.
In the role of Stacy, we continue to be so grateful to the Arlington community for our new library, which offers beautiful and flexible spaces to meet diverse student needs. The Student Library Advisory Committee, known as SLAC, is active with poetry open mics, professional guest speakers, library card drives, and more. The Intergenerational Book Club was recently featured in American Libraries magazine, and Stacy's tireless work on the AHS Library website was recognized for excellence by the Massachusetts School Library Association. Last week, the library held their first book swap at the AHS Eco Fair. Next slide. Library instruction takes place throughout the AHS campus, including online tutorials, professional development for staff, co-teaching in the library and the classrooms, and supporting a culture of wellness, inclusion, and lifelong learning. Next slide. And now on the role of me. With a full-time librarian at a full-time certified librarian at Gibbs for the first time this year, all sixth graders are receiving consistent, in-depth research instruction through partnerships between the librarian and the content area teachers. Teachers appreciate the support in curating research materials for students' needs and interests. Participatory library displays, book award programs, contests, and more keep our students interested and eager to come to the library and visit Biblioteca, our book drop monster. Next slide. Research instruction continues at Audison, where students also have the opportunity to participate in a library podcasting elective combining research skills with content production. Both schools strive to cultivate a culture of reading at a critical age where research indicates many students stop reading for pleasure. OMS has had many author visits and interactive programs this year to cultivate student engagement.
Next slide, please. The elementary library team provides excitement and information to students in an incredible variety of experiences. Students celebrated reading by dressing up like their favorite book characters and reading books in flashlight forts. They also learned how spiders make webs by way of a toilet paper cannon and hung out with hermit crabs from the APS Animal Lending Library. They exercised their judgment as readers by voting in our town-wide mock Caldecott and other book award programs. Next slide, please. Students also completed makerspace challenges, scavenger hunts, and escape rooms. They curated library displays for their peers. Students across the district are celebrated for reaching reading milestones. For example, over 45 students won trophies for reading over 100 books in 1 year. They created podcasts and wrote books and visited book fairs. Several collections were reorganized with front-facing bins to make browsing more accessible for our youngest readers. Next slide, please. This year, we conducted a successful pilot, which we called the Digital Learning Teachers in Library Residency. All students in grades 3, 4, and 5 had 1 quarter with a digital learning teacher, which focused on robotics and computational thinking standards. They included Ozobots, these tiny little guys here, and that was for grades 3 and 4, Finches, grades 4 and 5, and Code.org curriculum in grades 3 through 5. Some schools also piloted B-Bots in grades K and 2. Next year, we'll be integrating DLCS instruction in the library schedule for all elementary students.
Thank you, Melissa. What we're looking at now is our implementation plan for next few years. As Melissa mentioned, during this year's DL residency in library pilot, the DL specialist lead taught the DLCS curriculum to our grades 3, 4, and 5 with library support. And for this pilot, we also designed the initial curriculum for grades 3, 4, 5 with 8 interdisciplinary robotics units. So that sort of gave the library team perspective on what the curriculum is and what the tools are or the robots are. So next year, in 2026-27, we are going to pivot, change to the library teachers taking the lead teaching role in doing both the DLCS and library instructions during library classes. We'll have the DL specialists supporting the library teachers during that instruction. And this will allow us to reach, the best part of it is allow us to reach all K-5 kiddos in our elementary, which is one of our dream come true. So hopefully we will be achieving that next year. The 2027-28 is more for us to sort of look at what our student assessment tell us, what our teacher feedback is, what our units look like, and revise it. So we'll go through a revision cycle, we'll iterate our curriculum. And then we also notice that there are a lot more newer technologies and newer content standards that are emerging. So we want to align our curriculum with that, with some consistency, but we are also hoping to achieve efficiency with the DLCS content being integrated with libraries so that it's not, it's more interdisciplinary as opposed to, just one type of curriculum, which would be robotics or computational thinking. So we want to make an effort to connect literacy with our DLCS curriculum. And then 2028 and beyond is more for us to sort of go into the space of deeper integration, deeper responsiveness to our learner needs, and then the interdisciplinary focus. We'll have ongoing professional development, but the library and the DL team will engage with the classroom teachers so that we can have more content-based integration that's more meaningful and is aligned with the content standards.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Because I think it's helpful to paint a picture of the work you all are doing. Can you give an example of a way that you integrate a robot into how students are learning about a content, like something in the content?
Absolutely. So we recently had a project that happened at one of our wonderful elementary schools with pollinators, and we have book projects, we have books that they are reading about pollinators, and then we used Ozobot's pollination unit to integrate that. They looked at the data. They also created pollinators, so we have some images that we can share with you, which is just lovely to see. And then we had families come in where the students were actually presenting about their pollinators, what their habitat is, how they are creating the pollinators, what the data they're collecting, and it was lovely. We got a parent talking about how their child was connecting with the content and robot as their pollinator, which is ideal. But we also look at novel engineering, which is one of the ways in which we can teach literacy, engage them with the books, and then solve a problem that's been described in the book with the medium of either a robot or constructing some kind of a device to solve that problem. So that's sort of an approach that we hope to take as well as we evolve our curriculum. Thank you. Yeah. I just want to quickly take at my notes because, sorry. Challenges, we've all we are emerging out of a challenging budget season, but we've had some impact on our library paraprofessionals and our DL specialists, but we want to be really thankful that, one, our library team is together. We have 2 K-12 DL specialists, and we're really excited about implementing K-5 DLCS and library curriculum across for all our APS kiddos. We recognize that the rapid evolution of technology, be it AI, makes information literacy, media literacy, computational thinking, and digital citizenship all the more essential. And just to say this, it really helps to have a strong digital learning and a library program because it plays such a vital role in preparing our kiddos for today and tomorrow. We are really, again, we just want to say we are super grateful to you. Without your support, we wouldn't have the kind of support we have. We wouldn't have the library team that we have right now or the 2 K-12 DL specialists. We are really looking forward to implementing the plan that we shared with you and more. And the excitement that the kiddos see, you experience when the kiddos are engaged in this sort of meaningful interdisciplinary learning, it's a reward that is just way beyond. So thank you again. Huge thank you for supporting us. Thank you. We'll take some questions. That's our lovely library team. Mm-hmm. Did you want to?
You all have had quite a year, and I have to commend you, Rashmi, the rest of the team, on the optimism with which you are approaching the work, regardless of some of the challenges that I know you're thinking through how to deal with now that we will have fewer folks on your team. I think that you've been thoughtful and careful and planful about how to move forward. And in an ideal world, we would have a digital learning teacher full-time and a library teacher full-time and library paraprofessionals to support the work that you do. And I also, though, am so grateful that we have the incredible team that we have and that we have fully staffed libraries, because the possibilities that open up, and you're naming a number of them, are really dramatic. And so I guess, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Before everybody else does?
Sure.
Wasn't sure if that was loud. My biggest question for you all is, what's the biggest difference this year? For those of you who are now in a place, who were shared between places or were part-time, but are now in one school all day, what have you noticed is sort of the hidden difference that's making for you in your work with students or your work at the school?
In my first year as a librarian in Arlington, I was shared between 3 schools, and that was very challenging. So now I've been at Stratton for a couple years now, and it has been so wonderful to be able to keep building relationships with the kids, because that was the biggest struggle moving from school to school, was that I was relearning their names every 6 weeks or 3 weeks. And so building those relationships week after week, and then also, building collaborations with teachers as well. So that's been the biggest thing.
I do have you beat with 9 schools. But, so it has been 7 years, and this is the first of the 7 that I have been in one school. And it's so joyful. It is so wonderful to connect with the students and to be able to have fun instead of just trying to split my brain. And I'm really, I'm a nerd for research, and I'm so happy to be able to work with every single child and not just scramble to catch the ones that I can. And really have a wonderful partner. Our new librarian at Addison is not here tonight, but we work really well together to make it a seamless experience throughout middle school, and it's just the fun. I'm just happy to be able to have fun with them.
This is my first year, so I don't have a point of reference. But I will say that I have the pleasure of coming into a school every day and making magic happen with kids and connecting with them. And I was telling a story earlier that I had an extra energetic kiddo with me, and we were doing research together, and I was confusing some facts, and he's like, "Miss M, you're wrong." And I was like, "You know what? I didn't take my ADHD medicine today. I'm having a rough day." And he looked at me, he's like, "Oh, you have ADHD?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes." He's like, "Me too." And that bond was incredible. So I credit all of the work that my colleagues did for so many years to get a certified school librarian in schools full time, because I get to come in and, like I said, make magic and connections and read books and explore the world and just have a precious moment for 40 minutes with every single kid every single week.
Thank you. I just want to say, I think both the presentations before spoke a lot about that the administration really listens and is responsive to the needs of the kiddos and the teachers, and we feel the same way. We've always been able to find a thought partner in Dr. Holman, Dr. Ford Walker, all of you. I think it's a genuine honor and a privilege to be working in Arlington Public Schools. And I say that always, but really, thank you. Thank you for fighting for everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I throw in a praise story before you guys ask questions? Because I just have to say, I teach 7th grade global studies. One of the hardest part is finding age-appropriate resources for kids, because they are able to tackle the concepts of what's going on in the world today. They are not always able to read a peer-reviewed journal article or something. Right? So how do you find the right resource for kids? Last month, my students wrote argumentative essays about choice topics in the Middle East. Everything from women's rights in countries, the massive development projects like the Wall or Dubai building islands, shifting to solar power, water rights resources, human rights issues. Jessie Nelson came in, worked with the kids on how to use the databases that we, as a resource, we provide for students, which has helped them find keywords for searches, to refine searches, to set date categories. So if they were looking for women's rights in Saudi Arabia, they were finding stuff for the last 5 or 6 years, not from 20 years ago. The papers these kids wrote are so good. I cannot, the quality of work they were able to do with somebody to guide them to the right resources. I had a kid who got so into his paper about should the Kurds have their own country that he wrote an addendum for me. He's like, I wrote the 6-paragraph essay and I gave you an appendix with more information because I just kept going. This is the great work we can get from kids when we have experts to help them. And it really makes all the difference. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
They're such good essays.
Questions? Dr. Allison Ampe?
So mine isn't really a question, it's more of a comment, just that I hope you're doing everything you can to enable a love of reading or ignite a love of reading in kids, because I personally, with no data to back me up, feel that it's one of the most likely predictors for academic success, certainly for test taking and things. Just if if they're reading a lot, they're getting vocabulary, they're reading faster, they're able to read the materials faster and stuff. And I'm talking about just reading for fun, not that they have to be able to read this book or, summarize or list or have, read this number of books. I mean, just anything you can do to get the kids to read, enjoy reading and find things that they like to read and keep that going and ignite that spark. I think that's just so important.
Anyone else? Thank you so much. I echo everything everybody else has said. I have 2 elementary school kids and hear so much about what happens in the library, and one who will be at the Gibbs in the fall, so I'm excited to learn more about the Gibbs when they're there. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so
Nice
much.
job.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Next up, Mr. Schweitzer. This is him, right?
Yes.
The FY26 rentals report and rental rate proposals.
All right, hold on one second. Sorry, I did not have this one queued. Here it is.
Great, thank you. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, well, thank you so much, school committee. I apologize that I'm not there in person today, but thank you for taking the time for this important presentation today. Instead of just reviewing the proposed rates, and as kind of been customary in the past, I wanted to take a little bit of time today, just reviewing the agenda for this presentation to not just present the proposed rates for next year.
Yeah, hold on, Chris. We're getting feedback.
Yeah, it was the robot.
Oh, it was the robot? Fascinating. Was it really the robot? Okay, never mind, it was the robot.
Can't wait to find out what you mean. Okay, so anyway, the presentation today, it's not just gonna be the rates. I just wanna take a couple minutes to put in context, exactly from the fees that we raise, from the tuition, the fees and the rental rates, exactly what sort of operational costs is it offsetting. As part of the review of what would be some proposed rates for next year, I did some analysis of kind of year-to-date information. So I have about 9-10 months of FY26 rental information I'd like to share with you. Then we can get into the rate proposals for next year, and then I have some discussion on next steps for reviewing the outdoor fields, and then the superintendent will also highlight a couple items in regards to the after-school potential opportunities there. So moving on for like an offsets review, as I said, from the tuition and the fees that are raised, the rates that are received within the rentals, exactly where is that revenue going and what is it offsetting? A lot of this is kind of in the ethos of how we built out the budget, especially within FY27 and probably going forward. For the tuition for the preschool, this goes directly into the ACMi preschool fund, and this historically has and still will next year offset some of the costs for salaries for the teachers that we have in the preschool. The transportation fees go into the Bishop revolving fund. I know it's called Bishop Fund, but all the related transportation fees for Gibbs, for Audison, and likewise for Bishop go into that fund, and that likewise offsets some of the salaries here for the transportation drivers. The building rental rate fees that we have go into the building rentals fund, and that again aligned with the FY27 budget build is offsetting some of the custodial detail costs to work those details, covers any of our snow related procurement. So for the vendor, we might have to call in, as we did a couple times this past year, and any of the snow related procurement around salt or other materials and equipment to address that. It also covers some of our custodial cleaning supplies and our custodial cleaning contract, as well as cover some of our utility costs. And then lastly, the outdoor field rentals for the athletic fields that we have at the high school, those go into the Pierce Fund, similar to the building rentals. Any of the custodial detail is directly charged there, but then we also use some of that revenue to pay for the field turf maintenance contract. Going to the next slide, I just want to take a couple minutes here to review some of that year-to-date information that I have. So again, I reviewed all of our rental information from August through April. This is just kind of high-level review of, kind of the density of what groups, aligning with the school committee policy, is the density of our rentals and exactly where they're renting, what kind of spaces. So here aligned with school committee policy, and I do have that policy as the 4th page on the attachment for the session at the end of the rental rates. Group 1 would be for the high school, so our own internal work, school committee, any public events that we have going on, as well as town-related business. Here for Group 1, there's no additional charge, there's nothing there, and as you can see, that's a high density, that's the blue part of the chart, about 82% fall into that category. Group 2 and 3, this is when we get introduced into the groups that we would actually have some sort of rental charge to. Group 2 would be the nonprofit groups, could be the youth groups or youth athletic teams. They would have half of that rental fee per policy and then would cover the custodial. And then in Group 3, this would be private groups. So this would be a private organization or individual hosting a birthday party or adult basketball leagues or something like that, and they would be charged the full presented rate and custodial that's on that sheet. So I think it's pretty telling with there, you can see in the blue, about 82% of our rentals are in-house. So that's out of 525 that came into my team to review and then eventually off to the schools. 430 of those were from internal. So that shows that we are truly using our own space. It's primarily us that are using it during the day and after school. This could be something like a teacher or a couple of teachers wanting to consolidate classes into the discourse lab or reserving the auditorium for whatever it might be. So I think it's really telling and really appreciative to show that, we are using the facilities that we have. But then also when you look into Group 2 is that we're a welcoming environment to bring people into our schools, into our community and build community and really show off the tremendous facilities that we do have here and show some of that Arlington pride. One of the other things I did want to note too is, where are we having the rents? Primarily when you look at the Group 2 and 3, you can see there on the bottom left of the slide that a high density of the rentals that we actually have within those paid groups are in the gyms and the fields. So these are the athletic teams, these are the larger outside groups, could be dance as well. So we're seeing a high density of the gyms and the fields. Overall with the charges, 45% of our paid rents are in the high school, but especially when you go to Audison, Gibbs, and then some of the elementaries, if said school had 5 rentals, probably 4 of them were gym. Those seem to be some of the most heavily used spaces that we have. And then when you look at the other spaces, like the auditorium at the high school, cafeterias, and then the classroom and libraries, it broke out about 10% across the board there. Classrooms, libraries are mostly used by maybe like PTO or, Girl Scout troops. And then generally when those small gatherings are a couple dozen, that's when they would seek out the cafeteria spaces. Next slide, please. So now just digging into the proposed rate changes for this upcoming year. Again, I kind of looked at this two-pronged over the last couple of weeks. So one was kind of looking at the last slide, was looking at our current data. What's currently being used, where is it being used, from what groups it's being used. And so that was already presented on the prior slide. What I then did was kind of looked at similar communities that are around us. So I looked at the Burlingtons, the Winchesters, the Medfords, and tried to see what do their policies look like? What are they charging for said spaces? And to an extent kind of looked into those spaces. Is it in a newer school, comparable size and such? Not too surprising when you do a comparative analysis. Sometimes you're higher than others and sometimes you're lower than a peer. And even from town to town, we might have been higher or lower. There was nothing that significantly stood out to me as we're significantly higher or lower than a peer. One of the things that did stand out to me though, from looking at all the other towns, was that their rental sheet was a lot clearer and concise. Not that ours was extreme, but especially that page 2 that broke out the building rentals was previously 32 lines, and it was very repetitive for the same price, similar location, just a different school. So you'll see here just one changes on page 2 is it's a lot more condensed, and it really just breaks out those key areas of classroom, library, gym, auditorium, and cath, and it really only presents those escalators when you look at the Audison and the high school for some of those bigger and or newer spaces. So I hope you find that to be a little bit of an improvement, and it's more in line with what I saw from some of our communities. I think one thing, just kind of building off of this presentation, some work that we still have to do, I think there's still some cleanup we could probably do on this document and subsequently on our website to be a little bit more clear and clarifying exactly what that charge might be. Right now, it's a little time heavy, both on the renter request, but also my team, to kind of give quotes. If you put in the rental permit request, you might go back and forth and kind of give an initial quote of what that cost might be. I think it might be helpful here on this sheet as well as on the website to be a little bit more clear of particular examples. So it's a little clearer before you even submit that permit. You might have an expectation of what cost you might incur both for your rental time, but then also for the custodial. And I think in particular to the rent sheet or the rate sheet, when you're looking at those rates for a classroom or for a gym, That's based on group 3, so that's the full cost. But as you might recall from the prior pie chart, only about 5% of our rentals are actually being charged that full rent. So I think I might try and revise this document, maybe have 2 columns where there's the group 3 rate, but then also the nonprofit or the discounted rate for the local community. So I think there's still some continued work we can do over the next couple of weeks to set expectations and update our website for the weeks ahead. Just reviewing the rates here, you'll see that for the preschool, for transportation, and then for the facilities rentals, it's a 5% proposed increase. This falls in line with how we budgeted for FY27, and as I kind of spoke to before, the planned offsets we have within to these accounts. We're ensuring that we're covering the contractual increases for the custodians, so that is mentioned here. And then lastly, I just want to note that for the outdoor fields at this time, I'm not proposing any rate changes. When I was doing the peer analysis with other communities, we were actually in line with a lot of them, especially if they had a athletic field and for lights for local communities, our pricing was pretty comparable. But I think as we're now entering in our first full year, FY27 will be the first full year with all 3 of the fields. I think I'd like another year of analysis of really seeing what's being used, how it's being used, what kind of groups we're attracting into those spaces, as well as in kind of maintaining that we're in comparison with some of our peer communities. So at this time, I'm not proposing any rate increases for the fields. And then lastly, before I hand it off to the superintendent on the next slide, is the next steps for the outdoor fields. I think we're going to continue to look and refine the way our schedule is blocked off to ensure that we have access for our own teams. Right now, we kind of have a blanket block on both the new Turf 2 and Turf 3 fields for baseball and softball. If there's a game day, they generally are creeping up to that 6:30, 7:30, and we might not have access to a rental, but if it's a known scheduled practice day, that might be something that we can try and relinquish that hold for Arlington athletics and maybe try and get another rental opportunity or open up the public space for an hour or 2 in some of those evenings. So we'll be working on refining that schedule here for the end of this school year, but then also as we get into fall and kind of set that as a new expectation. We'll continue to review our field usage. I think one of the benefits of this spring, but now as we're getting into fall, is we're starting to bring some of our teams back from public fields to the high school. To an extent, that means then we might be opening up some of those public fields back to the public. So they can use those as public spaces and or engage with the recreation department and maybe seek opportunities to find rental opportunities there. And then lastly, I think especially as we're entering in the fall for the first time and a full year with the fields, is how do we continue kind of, engaging with some organizations that have expressed interest, maintaining some sort of longer term partnership that's predictable for them and their organization, but then also could be administratively and financially predictable for us as well. So I think there's a lot of work we still have to do, and excited for that work to come here into the next school year. And now I'll hand it off to the superintendent before we open it up for questions.
So one of the major groups, a couple of the major groups that we charge rent to, one is our after-school programs, and I'm going to have a more complete, like a full after-school report for you in one of the next 2 meetings. I forget exactly which date that is. But because after school is involved in some of the rental rate and offset work that we've been doing, I also wanted to preview some of what I will talk about more when we do the after school report. I'm hoping that we can do some auditing of programming across the sites in the year ahead, potentially contracting somebody to do some part-time or maybe explicitly contracted project work to assess the extent to which our after-school programming models are meeting student and family needs, what the cost is to families, as well as what the cost is to schools. This is, we had explored charging based on revenue, which is a model that we're going to be using moving forward, like a % revenue as opposed to each individual space, which was kind of how we had been invoicing this in the past. So we want to move in that direction, but that also requires us to really think about what is the programming cost to the school, what are the resources that those programs use for that large chunk of the afternoon, and can we get an estimate of what the energy cost is, of what the sort of supply use is, because they're using the restrooms and we're using our custodial crew is there and they're doing the cleaning up afterwards. And I think we also need to take a look at and assess the extent to which that custodial team might need additional support to make sure that the school is fully reset for the following day, especially if we're looking at expanding access to after-school programming. So those are some of the things I think we need to look at in the year ahead, as also the operations team is looking at and assessing some of the field use and calendaring. And I also want to take a look at how we internalize some of the external after-school programming in a phased approach starting in 27, 28. And that's something we've talked about, but we'd like to get started on it. It's going to require us to do some assessment of what that would require and to get really clear about what the cost to families is, what the cost to the system is, and what the best approach would be to expanding access to some of the after-school programming and improving the programming. So that's also on the docket for next year. We can talk about it more in more detail when we do the after-school report. Mr. Schweitzer, did you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Thielman?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much for this, Mr. Schweitzer and Dr. Ullman. I'm wondering if there's a need for there to be a conversation with kind of the different user groups after the spring season is over, before the fall, just to kind of get everyone, just to let everyone kind of share their experiences and to give you an opportunity to explain our process.
Sure. I think that's tremendous. I don't know if that'd be like facilities subcommittee, but I certainly think it's part of the discussion. I think we've had a lot of communities or organizations kind of reach out and submit interest.
Yeah.
It might not necessarily align with how the current spring structure is with, the fields or the mound currently on those fields, but those same organizations might be looking and seeking us out for opportunities in the fall and or how could we strategically use those spaces next spring. So I think it's certainly a great conversation to have, and I think having that feedback from other stakeholders would be powerful.
Okay, because sometimes I run into these folks, or they run into me, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's just good to get everybody in the same room to talk, or at least to hear your kind of summary of where we're at and what you're seeing in terms of usage and the constraints and the opportunities and the constraints we have, just so everyone gets the same information. I don't know. I can talk to the superintendent about it. We can figure out something.
Yeah. We had, Mr. Thielman, you had raised the question about the calendaring and can someone look and see if a field is available, which is actually what prompted us to go. It is available on our website. It's not super easy to find, so challenge number one. And then when we went and looked at it, we found those big blocks that are sort of default blocked, and that was where the sort of how do we get more granular in what is actually being used at an exact time on a given day, so that it's easier for users who want to rent a field to see when it might actually be available, as opposed to us putting an athletic block on a large chunk of time through the entire season, which may or may not be when it actually gets used. So that was what he was talking about with calendaring, and that came from feedback that we'd gotten from community members. So
I'll consult with the superintendent to try to schedule something.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Exton.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for streamlining this chart and consolidating the different areas. I think it makes it much easier to read. And I also appreciate all the rental data in terms of which groups are renting, how frequently. We had a back and forth about this, but I just want to, I do think that it would be really helpful to clarify these rates as and I'm not sure I understand it, so I'm not going to try to explain it, but yes, I think we need some kind of an example here about what this means. And you had sort of suggested the two columns, and I think perhaps that is helpful because it does sound like the majority of people actually renting, this is not the price that they will pay, and so having that a little clearer on this I think would be really helpful. I know most of these fees are just this 5% increase, but can someone, and maybe Dr. Homan, talk about how some of these numbers were sort of how people got to these numbers, particularly the AHS gym and the AHS cafeteria are significantly more expensive than any other space. And I think about this building being, the idea when it was pitched to the taxpayers and the community was that it would be a community space. And even at the reduced rate of group 2, it just feels a little prohibitively expensive for our community to use it. So I just would love a little clarity on that.
So I remember raising that same question about a year ago when we established some of these rates for the new spaces. That one of the bigger challenges associated particularly with auditorium, cafeteria, I would actually want to go back to the team to talk to them about the gym, because I'm not sure this applies in this case, but it's possible that it could. That the expertise, like the staffing required to run the technology, particularly in the auditorium and in the CAFs, in those, on the screens, the microphones, requires a more highly paid individual to be there prepared for setup. So the staffing is different. The custodial detail is different because of the square footage. So those house more people. So we need more custodians for the detail. When you have more people, you have more waste. Sometimes that has an impact as well on supplies. So those things were taken into consideration in establishing some of these rates for the spaces that hold large groups of people. The auditorium and the cafeteria in particular, we will typically have our auditorium, our theater manager present for those rentals. He's a professional who knows how to run all of the specialized equipment in the auditorium. If any of that specialized equipment needs maintenance, requires a vendor to come out and repair it, or breaks and needs to be replaced, like we do incorporate also into these rental rates the ability for us to maintain the space and maintain the equipment that is within it. And there is much more expensive equipment in all three of those spaces than in any of the other ones on this list. So I know those were pieces of the consideration that went into this. I also am pretty sure that the person who had taken all of that into consideration is no longer with the district. So, Mr. Schweitzer, I don't know if you did comparison on like new large spaces like that, but maybe if not, we can take a look at comparators for some other newer high school auditoriums or large venues. Just to make sure we're within a reasonable ballpark. And I also think that I was talking about with after school, like what does it actually cost for us to run this space, doing some of that analysis, and breaking it out on the sheet might be helpful for folks understanding why the rate is higher in those areas.
Yeah, and I like the auditorium, I can see, and in some ways there's these additional fees. I guess I'm wondering, maybe with the cafeteria, like, it's not necessarily clear that even those were options to have audiovisual pieces, and not necessarily every group needs that. I don't want to complicate, this fee, that fee, but just, when I look at this, that number, it's just so significantly higher than all these others. And again, it is a beautiful space. It's brand new. We want to keep it that way, but we also want the community to be able to use the space.
I have a related question. So my first question is the rate for the custodial detail. My understanding is it is currently charged at $50 an hour. So that's like a 34% increase. $67.20. Is that like our contracts have changed, or were we undercharged? Like where's that coming from?
Yeah, if I can speak to it. So that was one of the few changes that I made. I want to say it's been about 3 or 4 months now. That was one of the things I noticed because it had been a couple years, I think 2 or 3 years since the last rates were reviewed and increased. Sorry, and I believe it was done in September at the beginning of this last school year. I want to say in January, so I came forward and particularly looked at the custodial detail, because in most cases, we were not with that $50 covering all of the costs that we were actually paying out our custodians. We were actually losing money on every single detail that we were charging for the custodial detail. So I amended the language and clarified it that it's always going to be covering based on our contract, and that's consistent with all the peers I saw, was that the custodial detail charge mirrors and covers that custodial cost by contract. So the increase, I believe, if I can pull it up real quick, I believe it's going up from, it's currently at $201.60 for that minimum of 3 hours, or a proration of about $67. So this increase, the $212, is again just falling in line with covering the contractual costs next year to cover the most expensive custodian that we may pay detail to next year.
And that is consistent with town practice. This came directly from Jim Feeney as how they rent and how they charge for the custodial detail on the town side.
Okay, so are you saying we're already charging more than $50?
We are now. I can try and find back, but I believe that was part of my
We did a rental, yeah.
presentation. I think it was January or February we made an update.
Okay, so this actually directly relates to my second question, which is,
Sure.
I think we need some really clear communication. I did an informal survey when I was looking at this of PTOs, and there is vast variance in understanding of what they are going to be charged for what type of use of space. The most recent invoices that I saw when I asked people about this said $50 an hour. So when I mentioned that it's like, on the one hand, that's not a huge, I'm not arguing with that being what we need to charge, but that for some PTOs is a not insignificant factor in making a decision about how they're programming. The other thing the other thing I heard variation on was whether people are actually being held to the 3-hour minimum. And so, for example, if a PTO wanted to start holding in-person meetings in the library, probably, because they don't need that much space, those meetings are an hour. When you look at the policy, it looks like the minimum is the 3-hour. I don't think that that is what is happening in all spaces. And I know that it's not being charged in all, like, there's inconsistency. I recognize that you are new and you are figuring this all out and doing, like Ms. Exton said, like, this is so much clearer than it was. But I do think that that communication, I'm particularly interested in the PTO's use of the space, but for any of those level group one, just for those other groups, so that people aren't making decisions based on misunderstandings of what space is going to cost them.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback, and if you wouldn't mind if I can ask just for some of that backup, if you could send that to me.
I'm happy to talk to you. Yeah, and I would have checked in with you before this meeting, but literally in the last day, I had those conversations.
I appreciate it, and I definitely want to look into that. The number one thing I want to be is transparent, but then also consistent. I have 2 comments. Again, I want to look into that information offline. The last revised updates were in February. So February 26th, we did increase from what effectively was
okay, so
$50
maybe the
per
invoices
hour.
somebody showed me were older than that.
And it does mirror to make sure that we're covering the most expensive custodian, so that's consistent. And then to the 3-hour minimum, because some of our peers are 3, some are 4, the 3-hour minimum is in respect to the custodial contractor, it kind of mirrors that.
Okay.
If we have a detail for custodian, that is overtime, and it mirrors at least a 3-hour minimum per contract. So even if someone only has an hour rental, and it starts a half hour before that, and it's effectively an hour-and-a-half rental, we're still paying the custodian a minimum of 3 hours. And so basically, it's the space and the custodian for 3 hours.
Okay,
But
I want to make
wanna
sure
look into
there's
your examples
consistency there.
But I think that's part of Ms. Exton's kind of examples would be helpful, and I think that's certainly something through narrative or visuals we can clean up and make more clear on our website and this chart.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Dr. Allison Ampe.
Thanks. Yeah, so this is helpful. I'm wondering if we want to revisit our policy. I have the same question that Ms. Exton has, that I'm worried that the way it's worded here, that some in-town, I'm thinking more about in-town groups that would benefit, basically using the building to help support our community. I'm worried that some of them are priced out by the wording that we have that maybe we don't necessarily want to do. And I'd like to have more discussion about that. Specifically, I'm thinking about the group 2, the non-profit groups or events which bear some connection with the mission of Arlington Public Schools, and that there can be numerous in-town groups that are nonprofit or whatever, but they don't necessarily have a direct link, but I feel like they shouldn't just be shunted into the other group. So anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah. Whenever anyone, so I'll just share an example. We had somebody contact us about Town Day and doing a blood drive. for an organization that's an in-town organization, and they have someone willing to do the blood drive, and they wanted to know if they could do it at the high school, because that's where they're going to have the space. Looked at the sheet, and reached out and asked a question about, is there any way that we could qualify for a break on this, because we don't really have a budget. They're talking to Mr. Schweitzer about what we can do to pare it down to just the custodial detail, because they are an in-town group, a nonprofit, trying to do a good thing for the community on Town Day. I think Mr. Schweitzer and I can work on how we make clearer and more encouraging to reach out and ask the question. I was pleased that they thought to ask the question, but how do we make it more obvious without creating a situation where we're haggling over each rental? That groups that are attached to our mission are in Arlington are encouraged to talk to us about rates, and it's clear that there's a reduced rate for them. But I want to do that without confusing the form any more than it already is, or the rate sheet. And we can work on that perhaps over the summer months and come back in the fall with a revised version of this, so long as the rates work. And we can also take a look at some of the larger spaces at the high school and see if they seem fair up against similar sorts of spaces in the area.
Yeah, so the other thing is, if we are having to pay custodial services for 3 hours, is there a way for us to capture the work? No, I'm serious.
No,
If someone's
yeah.
being paid for 3 hours,
that's a more difficult thing to operationalize, probably.
Mhm.
I'm not sure contractually if that would work or not, but we would have to take a look at the contract.
Okay.
I have, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Could, I'm in thinking of the PTO question, if a PTO is only meeting for 1 hour of the 3 hours, could 3 PTOs, submit 1 rental to save the cost, or does it have to be per group?
I think that where PTOs want to meet in their home schools, so
Yeah.
it's hard to, I'm not sure logistically how that could work.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, say they rented the high school because they wanted, and they wanted to have a meeting, they could all come to like one central place, maybe save money. But I see what I'm just thinking, like, is that even possible? Or a nonprofit group that says they want to meet for 1 of the 3 hours, can we split it with another 2 entities that would fall under group 2? Is that possible?
Maybe, but the larger the group and or space demand, the more custodial support the group might need. So it may end up coming out in the wash. The other thing I will say is there's often setup for a group, like we're putting the tables in a particular way. So that happens before the hour-long meeting, and then there's put it all back the way you found it. That happens after the hour-long meeting. So even if it's an hour-long meeting, it's not an hour-long detail, kind of regardless. But we do have the contractual minimum, and if we post a detail, we can't post it for an hour and a half. So we're eating the cost if we give somebody the reduction.
Mr. Thielman?
Yeah, I think just hearing all this, it would be good for all the different user groups that, kind of reach out to the district, from PTO sports teams, clubs, whatever, nonprofits, to kind of get a presentation on all of the constraints that we have and all of the opportunities that we have. And then to just kind of let people talk and get some input from them. I think there's a need for that discussion at some point after we get through the spring. And I think it would be good to have between the end of the school year and before the beginning of the school year, so all the groups kind of get a say, or get to hear the message, how we've come to where we are, and hear from the groups. And then if the school committee has work to do in terms of revising a policy or whatever, then we have to do it. But I would think we should talk to them and hear from them first. Because there's a lot of different groups that are talking to us that are not in the room.
Ms. Keys, did you?
I was just, to answer Kirsty's question a little bit about like the scope of work that's doing. I've been in some of these groups that have rented out spaces or like been into a school on a Saturday where the custodian's there in a detail with like a student group or something. It's not like their job, but they're sort of our eyes and ears on the building, especially when it's a group coming in that has no direct connection to the schools. So they're not just unlocking the door, sitting around playing on their phone, and then taking out the trash when it's done. Like, they are making sure that group stays where it needs to be, sort of making sure that everyone's taking care of our equipment and our spaces. So like that, even if it's not a lot of setup and cleanup, like they're keeping our spaces safe by being there. So I just don't want that to get lost in the list of tasks.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't.
I know.
I'm saying if they're only doing that for 1 hour and we're paying them for 3, that's.
I understand your question, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, I'd have to go look, though, I don't want to.
I mean, my guess and is that for the larger spaces, 3 hours is less likely to be a stretch for how long people are in need of them. I'm more thinking about, you know, a Girl Scout troop or a PTO wanting to use the library. They're going to sit at the tables the way they were arranged when they walked in there, talk for an hour, and leave. And if it's contractual, like that's a separate but my experience is we have not had an in-person meeting since COVID. There is a movement to try to get people back in a room together. And if it has a financial cost, that's going to be a really easy no for people. So we just have to think about what we're getting out of letting people use our space.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a procedure? Is there an expectation at some point that we're voting on these fees?
So in order for us to charge them, yes. If the committee wants us to make revisions and come back, we can do that.
Yeah, I'm not ready to do that tonight, but I wanted to find out that was the expectation. Okay.
Mr. Thielman?
When are we going to, like, we have to vote these soon, right?
Mr. Schweitzer, what was your goal?
If there
Is this for
was,
FY27?
if there was a priority list, it was more so on the preschool, only because we're anticipating putting out letters for the families that we currently have that are still with us or new families for next school year. The preschool one was more that aligns with letters that go out normally at the end of May. For the other ones, we can probably wait another meeting or two, but that was the one that was top of mind.
The next meeting's on the 28th, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, we could treat this as a first reading and then vote on the 28th. Is that enough time, Chris, or not enough time?
Go ahead.
I move approval of the Menominee preschool tuition rates and the transportation fees as presented.
That would be very helpful.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. We have a roll call vote because we are not all here. Ms. Haynes-Copperthorne?
Yeah.
Dr. Allison Ampe?
Yes.
Mr. Thielman?
Yes.
Ms. Exton?
Yes.
Mr. Schlichtman?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that is 6-0.
So how are we going to handle the rest of the fees? What's the time? What's the process?
Why don't we take a look at the questions that have been raised and the formatting? And we will bring back for a second read a revision, either at the meeting on the 28th of May or the 11th of June, because these are for FY27, so they wouldn't go into effect until July 1st.
Yeah, so it has to be.
So we'll bring a revision for second read based on the feedback we got.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer.
No, thank you.
The next thing on the agenda is the senior award letters, and I'm realizing that I don't know, do we just take a vote without saying
Yes.
any
Yes.
of the
Yes.
names?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all we do.
That's all we do. So I just need a motion to approve the senior awards letters.
Second.
Ms. Haynes-Copperthorne?
Yes.
Dr. Allison Ampe?
Yes.
Mr. Thielman?
Yes.
Ms. Exton?
Yes.
Mr. Schlichtman? Yes. And the chair votes yes. Thank you. And Ms. Exton will be presenting those awards because it's also the Pierce Chorus concert.
Okay.
So,
Enjoy
thank
the
you.
concert.
Superintendent's update.
All right. So I would like to begin by thanking an incredible student at Arlington High School, Kamara Rodriguez is an Arlington High School senior and member of the METCO program. She was recently honored with the 2026 Achiever of the Year Award from Friends of the Children, which is a Boston organization that provides youth with mentors, and it is primarily targeting youth who have experienced obstacles early in their lives and may experience some barriers to education or achievement or leadership opportunities. Kamara joined the Arlington METCO program in 6th grade. She's been connected to Friends of the Children mentors ever since 1st grade. Over the years, Arlington METCO and Friends of the Children have worked to make sure that she received strong academic and social emotional support. We're very proud of her demonstrated leadership and her spectacular accomplishments at AHS. I do have the speech. I was going to send you the video, but it wasn't link opened. So if I get the permission to share it with all of you, I will do so. I have the text of the speech. I could send it to everybody after the meeting, but congratulations to Kamara both on her graduation and on winning Achiever of the Year. Also, some really exciting news that literally came in today. The press release was published. Arlington has been awarded a $2 million Green School Works grant from the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. That grant is one of several competitive grants that we applied for and shared with town meeting actually on Monday as offsets to the cost after the MSBA reimbursement of the Hardy electrification project. So the press release came out earlier today. I sent that to the committee, and the award letter is in your materials in one meeting. But this is an additional offset on top of the MSBA offset and on top of rebates that we'll be able to get. And this was the largest competitive grant that we were applying for, so we weren't sure if we were going to get it. We're very, very excited to hear that we will have an additional $2 million taken off the cost of that project.
Can we announce that? Can someone tell town meeting this on Monday?
I will, yes, I'll talk to Mr.
Okay.
Feeney about making sure that we reinforce that with town meetings.
Yes.
We're just there
Yes,
looking at the
because
grid of the different
There were more
costs.
questions about the Hardy
Yes.
than there were about the Addison.
There were, yeah.
Which I found fascinating.
Yeah, HVAC's good and complicated. It gets people confused, but this was super exciting news this week. I want to say congratulations to our retirees. We had an amazing staff appreciation event last week, and we had a record number of retirees. We have 28 educators and staff members retiring from the Arlington Public Schools this year, and there are their names. We will miss them very much and all of the knowledge and expertise that they bring to our schools every day and to their interactions with students every single day. There are a lot of folks on this list I'm so sad to say goodbye to, but we're really excited for them and all of the adventures they're gonna go off and have in retirement. And we know that sometimes people retire from the Arlington Public Schools and then reappear the next year as a sub or welcoming students at the front desk. It happens. So we're pretty sure that it's only farewell for now, and we'll see them again. We, like I said, had our staff appreciation event. Thank you to the members who were able to attend and celebrate with us. We celebrated, like I said, 28 retirements. 39 honorees were earning professional status this year. 13 were celebrating 20 years with Arlington Public Schools. 7 were celebrating 25 years. We had 1 honoree celebrating 30 years, and as we discussed, 1 honoree celebrating 50 years with APS. And this picture right here is from the standing ovation she received all the way up to the front to receive her award and all the way back to the cafeteria, because we had some amazing food that we were also served by our incredible nutrition staff also. After that celebration, we went to the discourse lab at the high school for a dedication of that space to Dr. Bodie, former superintendent of the Arlington Public Schools. We had former and current building committee members, and that's pictured there in the bottom right, as well as former administrators who were here when the project started, participated in the development of the educational plan. It was really wonderful to have a little mini reunion and to celebrate Dr. Bodie and her contribution to the Arlington Public Schools. Discourse Lab is a perfect space to name for her because it's about community and it's about connection, and that's what she's about. So it was lovely to have her there to dedicate the space, and at some point when you have a moment, you should go check out the plaque that's right outside the door. The students made it, and we also gave her a copy of it, the sort of prototype that we had done to take home, so she has a copy of the plaque as well. We have rescheduled our District Pride event, which the Rainbow Task Force puts on every spring, to June 13th because it was a very rainy day on the day that we were originally going to have it. So we thought people might not like to sit outside in the rain, and that will be on June 13th. So there's the flyer. If anybody would like to scan the QR code and learn about what's going on, and let us know that they will be there. We also recently received the 2025 special education determination. We received this determination regularly. It was determined that we meet requirements under that designation, and so we were pleased to learn that we were meeting requirements under the IDEA regulations. And we have a number of planned school committee program updates and the full list of presentations that we're planning for next school year for our school committee meetings is included in your materials for tonight, or I actually forget whether or not I sent it to you, Ms. Diggins. I know I have sent it to the school committee as a separate attachment. We'll make sure it's in the materials if it's not there right now. But just a little bit of a preview of some of the things that we have planned. The Arlington Education Foundation has confirmed that they'll come give us an update. We will have a special education update, science, multilingual learner. We'll have the ML pack come as well, but we'll also do a program update with the ML director. Wellness will be here to talk to us. Digital learning team will come back to talk about AI. And then SEL and counseling, and then we have more scheduled. So if you have any input on the topics that are there or specific topics that you want to drill down on in any one of the programs, we've been trying to get, as opposed to like a large, broad overview, really give a picture of some of the specific work happening in the schools when we're doing the presentation. So if there are specific things in any of these areas that you're interested in hearing more about, please let us know. Of course, you don't know what you don't know about what's going on. So hearing none, will come up with something that is good for the committee to know is going on so that you can speak with specificity about what you know is happening in the schools. And we have a few administrator hiring searches going on. We heard about the bracket AP search. The finals were this week. Announcements are coming soon. The Dallin assistant principal search finals were yesterday. The announcement's coming soon. There's a Gibbs AP search underway. I just want to clarify that this vacancy is actually because of other vacancies. So the interim principal at Pierce had rights back to assistant principal position at Gibbs because she was interim at Pierce. And so we filled that position with an interim, and that individual has decided to go back to the classroom and teach again. So that's why that vacancy is there. And so sometimes when you have an interim, you have a bit of a domino effect when it comes to vacancies, which is why we have AP vacancies. At Pierce, we have a search launching soon for assistant principal. That will be led by the incoming permanent principal, Mr. Vanderlane, and have support from interim principal, Dr. Woods. I also want to say congratulations to Dr. Thomas. We sent, and there's included in your materials, an announcement about various central office position postings and appointments that we made today, and this helps other groups get clear about who's going to go where in some of our reorganizations. But I wanted to explicitly congratulate Dr. Thomas, who will be our Executive Director of Access and Engagement in 26-27. That includes some pretty significantly expanded role responsibilities from compliance with regulation to district communication initiatives to oversight and support of inclusive teaching and professional development. Originally, when we had talked about this position, we weren't really sure about wrapping the communications, and into that we have decided to have dual reporting on the communications specialist and enrollment specialist role, and she'll work directly with the community engagement team and Dr. Thomas as part of this expanded scope for her role. So more updates are included in one meeting if you want to know more about the other appointments in the central offices, and we'll have more announcements at the school levels as we keep sorting out sort of where everybody lands. But we're pleased that we have enough openings that everybody who wants to stay here can stay here for the most part, particularly for our staff who have been here for 3 or more years. So that's a positive thing. And then in your enrollment updates and projections, I've done some adjusted out of district projections, and I need to double check those because we're pulling directly from Power School, and I know that we have other ways of projecting some of that. So I just want to name that caveat that those projections might be slightly off, and I'm cross-checking them right now with the special education team. So stay tuned. It's possible that those numbers will adjust slightly. We're not seeing the decline in enrollment yet. We kind of were anticipating that we might see about a section's worth, a classroom's worth, fewer students next school year. But it could manifest as students withdraw in the summer as they move or relocate. So they're still in the system right now, and we're matriculating them by default. It's possible that as we have some move-outs, that the numbers sort of calibrate and we start to see some of the enrollment reduction, but it's not showing up in the projection right at the moment. I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the item will be considered in its normal sequence. Warrant number 26275, dated 5/12/2026, amount $625,294.86. Regular school committee meeting minutes, March 26, 2026. Draft school committee meeting minutes, April 9th, 2026. Draft school committee organizational meeting minutes, April 9th, 2026.
Move approval?
Second.
Ms. Haynes-Copperthorpe?
Yep.
Dr. Allison Ampe?
Yes.
Mr. Thielman?
Yes.
Ms. Exton?
Yes.
Mr. Schlichtman?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Subcommittee liaison reports and announcements. Budget, Dr. Allison Ampe.
Budget does not have any updates, but I wanted to mention that the superintendent gave the presentation for the schools at town meeting last Wednesday, not yesterday, but a week ago, and did an outstanding job. I think it was the best speech that I've heard for our budget and our finances, with Mr. Schweitzer's help, that we've ever had. So, and I think it was reflected in how few questions there were and how.
Am I correct that it was a unanimous vote? Was that one of them? There were, I
think
watched
there
and there were
was.
several.
But it wasn't just, it was, we can't take all credit for that, though, because
it was the full town budget,
everybody's budget.
Full town budget was in there.
Well, no, but didn't they vote? They don't.
Not just on schools.
No, they
Okay.
don't vote the separate budget. They
Okay. Well, still.
We still get
Yeah,
credit
it's
for it,
still
a little bit.
the fact that there
I've never
wasn't.
seen that.
No, exactly. Anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out that really, she did an excellent job, and it was, I think that helped, and I think it enhances the confidence that the town has in the schools and the money that they're giving us, and when we come because we need more money because we're not decreasing our enrollments, it helps, so.
Community relations, Mr. Thielman.
We are meeting on June 2nd, and there's right now 3 things on the agenda. One is an appointment to the Human Rights Commission. There's 1 person interested. Second is the Rainbow Coalition appointment, and the third is a conversation about how we set the calendar in the district. Dr. Holm is going to make a presentation.
Curriculum, instruction, assessment, and accountability, Ms. Exton.
We are meeting next Wednesday, May 20th, to see the district goals.
Facilities, Mr. Thielman.
Well, I'm going to talk to the superintendent to get to figure out what's the best way forward.
Policy and procedures, Mr. Schlichtman.
Yeah, we just got a detailed list of regulation changes from MASC that we need to fold into our policies. Many of these we've already taken care of to some extent, so the changes will be fairly minor, but we'll not have a meeting before the end of the year to set up at least the first read before we go away for the summer.
Thank you. Arlington High School Building Committee.
You know, we're actually still in business. We have a meeting on Tuesday, the 2nd.
June 2nd.
Yeah, June 2nd, to consider a couple of things.
Liaison reports, announcements, or future agenda items. We have no executive session this week, so I welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Haynes Copthorne?
Yes.
Dr. Allison Ampe?
Yes.
Mr. Thielman?
Yes.
Ms. Exton?
Yes.
Mr. Schlichtman?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you.